Hey everyone, welcome,
Yes,
welcome,
thank
welcome.
you.
Welcome to everyone who is joining us online. I think people are still joining. I see the number raising. Great. Hey, oh, great. All the panelists are here. People are joining. Before the event, I went through the list of participants and I saw quite some familiar faces. So, hi, everyone I know, or everyone who will be our new friends. Great to see you. We are waiting for a little bit more people to join us in. And I'm starting to share the presentation. I want to ask my dear panelists to give it a thumbs up. You can see if you can see the slides. Yes, great. Now I know it works. Hey, Margot from London. Oh, we have, yeah, if you are joining us and you have an opportunity to text in the chat, please do so. First of all, to try the chat function. And secondly, we are very curious where you're coming from. Portugal, Istanbul, Spain, Madrid, Warsaw, Amsterdam. Hey, I'm also from, I'm in Amsterdam. Hi. Lithuania, Warsaw. Cool. We have
Quite a nice international crowd.
yeah, and quite European also, it looks like. Very nice. Minsk. I'm from Minsk. Great. Hi. Nice. Also, just for everyone to already kind of tell a little bit more, so you can use the chat function to chat and to share your opinion, to share whatever you would like to share. But there is also a Q&A function. So if you have a specific question to the panelists or to whoever, please put it in there. And everyone who is looking at the Q&A, you can also upvote. If you see a question that you really also want to be, you are also very curious about, please upvote those questions. They will appear on top in my list. So I know the most upvoted questions will be the most interesting. So I will pick them first. So please don't put the questions into the chat, but put the questions in the Q&A, and then it means that there will be more most probably I will just ask them to the panelists. But welcome again, everyone who is joining us. I'll start with some technical things, and then we will go into what you actually all here came today, is to get to know a little bit more about impact investing. What are we going to do today? So we will first do the quick introduction to the panelists, myself and Ultra VC. Then we will do a interactive session, the first interactive session. It will be breakout rooms for just 5 minutes to get to know each other. We would like to embrace the serendipity of networking, and that's why we would really like all of you to have a chance to meet at least one new person. It will be just for 5 minutes, and will help you with some questions you can ask each other during those 5 minutes. Then we will go to the panel discussion. We all got your questions which you asked during the sign-up form. So I took them into the account, and we will have a discussion with the panelists, and we will see where it takes us. And after the panel discussion, we'll have the second interactive session. We will have a we will have four moderators, or we are having four moderators. Each moderator will be assigned to one question, and each moderator will have a breakout room connected to him or her. So each of the audience will be, participant will be able to join one of the breakout sessions and to have a discussion together with the moderator of that specific session. aka one of the panelists, where you can actually discuss, dive into a topic and come up with some solutions or answers or some other insights on that specific topic. And I will share the topics a little bit later. And after that, we will do the recap and the final Q&A. I am very much known as a person who always overestimate how much or underestimate how much time we need. For now, I plan 60 minutes. I will try to keep it within the 60 minutes time frame. Yeah, so that's the goal, to be done in 60 minutes. Well, without further ado, I would like to introduce the panelists today. I'm very excited about having an opportunity to chat about the impact-driven investment with all of them, or you. So I'll start from this, how I see it on the screen. First of all, Alexander Chekan, who is the Chief of Staff at Palta. Then we have Valerie Bertelle, who is General Partner at Yellow Rocks. Then Lena Michenkova, who is a co-founder of Vlinder. And a fun fact from like someone who lives in Amsterdam, they maybe know, but from Dutch, Vlinder is translated as a butterfly. So it's a very beautiful name. And then Mario Solari, who is a partner, portfolio manager at Genesis. So that's just the titles these people have. I've dug deep into their backgrounds, and it's actually very interesting. So I'm really, yeah, again, excited to have a conversation about your experiences in that area. Very quick word like about myself. So I'm Daria. I'm leading company-wide operations on Ultra VC. And what we do, we are an early stage impact-driven investor. We help impact-driven startups to grow from 0 to 1. We are very ambitious, and we have a goal that in 10 years we would like to positively impact the quality of life of at least 1 billion people. And what we do and what we strongly believe in is in the entrepreneurs, visionary people, explorers, and all of those people who want to challenge the status, the current status quo. And we want to do it by bringing people together, by building communities, and by stimulating everyone to embrace their potential within those communities. Yeah, we really strongly believe in challenging actually the current status quo and making the world a better place. We do it in a very standard VC model. So we invest very, very early stage through the acceleration program, and afterwards we can do a follow-on investment. I've prepared some questions, and the main question I want to ask all of you is how do you define impact, either for yourself or for the company you present or for the business you're in? So what does it mean to be impact driven? How do you look at that? And I will start with Lena, who is representing the startup world.
Okay, let's start with me. Well, I was thinking actually about it because you said I will open a secret. Daria has sent her questions beforehand. So I was thinking like the general definition would be its measurable impacts of a project, the business on the environment, society, whatever, economy, individuals. But if we think about impact startups, this is a combination of entrepreneurship with a strong commitment to address some pressing environmental, societal changes. So for me, that would be it. And in the context of the nature-based carbon projects in which I am, that would be measurable, positive changes that the project can bring to the environment and communities. So in our case, that would be reduction of CO2 in the atmosphere, the restoration and preservation of ecosystems, and social and economic well-being of people. So that would be that detailed impact definition for me.
Thanks, Lena. And maybe Maria, I'm curious to hear from you.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with the measurable part. I was thinking about it too, and I kind of got to in my case as an investor, it needs to contain three key elements. One is a clear intention. And I think that's sometimes what people miss. I think it all starts with setting that, up a clear intention to create, that beneficial outcome that we're seeking to create in communities, environments, and society at large. And it needs to come genuine. So you need to be able to demonstrate that you're doing it for reasons that are genuine. And then I think the second thing is that intentions are necessary but not sufficient, and we do need to be able to measure. So once we have defined our intentions, then these impacts that we're trying to generate need to be able to be assessed. And if we cannot assess them and measure them, that's problematic, as we will lack that transparency that is required over the results that we intend to generate, which kind of puts the whole impact premise under question, right? And then in my case, it needs to have financial returns. Because if we're talking about impact investing, the expectation of that financial return is what differentiates impact investing from philanthropy and other forms. So those are the kind of three elements that I would include in that definition.
Thank you. Thanks, Mara. And Valerie, I'm curious.
I can actually add to what Mary just said. I just completed my degree at Stanford, and they teach you two cornerstones: value creation and value capture. So pretty much similar what Mary said. In the current environment, and I mean environment as a global environment, you cannot afford to do not have value, and you need to have a genuine good mission. Because I think, especially in the US, what we're seeing, and I think for most of the people on this talk, they can relate, it's employee engagement or retention, right? Like attracting people to work for your company, work for your startup. They want to see that you have a really good impact and you have a good mission, whatever business you are, from a startup to a corporation. And the second, it's a capital, like attracting capital from early stage investors to corporates in all level. I think on the early stages, it'll be more like you want to make sure you attract right investors. And if you're going all the way to corporates, they actually they have regulatory requirements to look into those companies and to make sure there's a good mission, it's driven, it's ESG. So you cannot afford not to have it these days. That's from my perspective, especially in the US. We have a big push here.
Thanks. And Alexander.
Yeah, I would agree with the colleagues, and I would add one more kind of dimension from the product perspective. As most of the attendees, I think they're building some tech products. I really like the article, the red one. It's pretty popular on the internet. The only product metric that matters. And in a nutshell, the article is about you have to measure one thing that explains, do people actually use your product as you intended, kind of as it was designed to? And I mean, if you work on a fitness app or work on whatever, we are in health and well-being tech industry, so you really have to understand, do people actually use your product? And then because your intention was to have some impact on them and to help them to achieve some goals. In fintech, it might be financial goals, and it's in afforestation is of course it's very different. But then you measure your financial progress, of course, but then you have to tie this with financial metrics and with this one thing to understand whether people actually use and see value in your product. And
yeah, but it's quite interesting also because it's so commonly used, the word impact or impact driven, but there is no one kind of description of it. And everyone, like if you look from product angle, from a fundraising angle, from society angle, from climate angle, there are so many different descriptions of what impact actually means. So it's I've recently only like understood it, and it's quite interesting. And then maybe following that, and I will combine my question with the question from the audience that just came. But what, and all of you mentioned that financial returns are important. And when you either investing or when you're fundraising, how do you, what comes first, impact or revenue or return on investment? I understand it could be similar, but usually it's still kind of one over the other. And how do you evaluate what's more important, either for your specific cases or you see what you see on the market? And maybe it's also connected when you do the evaluation of the company when investing. Does it actually, what then comes first? Revenue they're going to like, or projecting, startups projecting to have, or how much impact they're going to make on the world? And how do you put these two together in terms of the valuation of a company? Maybe I'll start with Mara. I see you thinking, so I'll start with you.
Yeah, I would probably try to reframe that question in terms of like what comes first. I'm not sure one comes first. I mean, both need to be present. I think an important element is to really start with, understanding that, measuring, generating, creating impact is a complex process, and it's not often it's not a linear process. It's not often a predictable process. So I would deeply question any attempt to oversimplifying and kind of applying cookie cutter approaches to whether financial metrics go first or impact goes first. And I think we really need to take it case by case. I do think that in some cases, proving certain financial metrics can be almost like a prerequisite to prove the sustainability of that impact generation that is intended. And therefore, it may well be that initially deprioritizing measurable impact metrics could be warranted, and until we are certain that it could be a sustainable financial model that can sustain that impact. But in other cases, you can also see cases where, and I've seen cases when you can measure the impact from the very beginning, and that is also a prerequisite for making it a sustainable financial model. So I think it really helps to be clear about the theory of change at large, and almost like taking a step back and look at the bigger picture first, the intended end game, and then like almost working backwards as to kind of what are the different metrics or different milestones that you want to be tracking at each specific point in time. And then as you go on, constantly reassess your theory of change and make adjustments as to what you want to see at each point in time to ensure that you keep confidence in that both the financial model and the impact model are sustainable. But yeah, that would be my response. I personally get very suspicious of highly kind of formulaic approaches to this.
Thanks. I'm quite curious now from Lena perspective also, when fundraising as a startup, how do you balance this financial metrics and impact metrics?
I think we never differentiate. Somehow we never put a line between them, because for us in the business model we are having, long-term sustainable impact is the basis for our financial success. And vice versa, if we don't have funds, we won't be able to sustain the impact we are making. I would say it's inseparable. So I wouldn't choose one. It's always both.
Yeah, thanks. And Alexandra or Valerie, if you would like to add anything, Alexandra.
I think it's a bit easier to sell the idea of impact at a like earlier stage, because the early stage, once you pitch your startup idea to kind of FFF, like friends and family and others, and so it's easier to get a buy-in and like to fall in love in a specific idea of we're gonna like cure cancer or I don't know, do something else. And at the further stages, you must demonstrate some financial track record as well. So you're not gonna like pitch institutional investors with just idea of the impact. It's a vital part, but they are not managing their own money. VCs and the PEs, they're managing someone else's money, and their job is to make money on money, and that's it. So they are not your, aunt or classmates who can just support nice idea of yeah.
I will piggyback a little bit on Alexander as well. I do agree with you. It really depends on fundraising, on the stages, who you're pitching to. But I agree with Lena that they should be inseparable, because even if you have a great financials, but you are lacking, it's not just impact, it's like, where are you going to with it? Like, even if you're in a specific business, even if you're in defense or like some maybe more questionable in terms of like, humanitarian helping everybody, it's still a value creation. Like, who you're helping, like, what is your value, what is your impact you're going to deliver. But I agree with Alexander on the later stages, especially institutional investors, they will be looking at your numbers really hardly, more than the early stage. I would say if you're starting, and I think most of the people here are starting, you need to show the value you're creating. And if you have a good value for the customers, the value for investors will follow. So it's always inseparable. They go hand in hand. And I'm just repeating that we see, I think US and California in many cases, it's a trendsetter. Maybe climate change, it's a little bit better than Europe. I think they're enforcing it stronger. But we see that it's just, you have to have it. People will not go and work for your company. You will not get money if you don't have a really good impact, like, why are you doing this business? And it's also should be mission driven, ethical, and with a really good baseline, like how you're building it. And then financials, they will follow. People will give you money and investors will give you money too.
I actually like the comment in the chat. Sorry, Daria, meeting you, Brad. The greatest impact from Nicholas, the greatest impact, if it doesn't create a profit in the end, is not sustainable. I totally agree.
Exactly. It's either pure charity where you just give money, because even non-profits, they need to generate money. They need to have a value creation to keep driving the impact that they're there for. 100%.
Yeah, thanks. And then maybe, as you said about the kind of the difference between US and Europe, and like who is and where the impact is driven by, maybe let's dive into that topic, because I think a lot of you have experience in working in different markets, and I'm quite curious to understand what are the market trends you see on your locations where you actually either based or working in, and what is what's important for that market, what's important for the fundraising or when investing in, are there any trends you see in your specific markets? And maybe, Valerie, you started to talk about US or the US already. Maybe we can continue with you on that topic. And I will be very specific to you, actually, what is impact, because you said it's not too much climate impact yet in the US. Maybe what would be considered?
It's a long topic. It's connected to our government. As you know, we had a bit of a hiccups, and we still don't know what will happen in the next term. So our previous government was not really supportive under Trump administration. So Biden was fixing a couple of things. Now we have a feeling, if we're talking high level on the climate, if you're interested, there's a lot of discussions about nuclear, because I think it takes time to forget and to kind of forget the past a little bit, like a Japanese story, even story in Belarus with our nuclear disasters, right? So nuclear, it's a new discussion in the White House. I was actually just in Washington last week, meeting a few people from the government. Outside of venture, I'm also consulting government on innovation. And interesting to see that if everything goes well and the current party is staying in the favor, then we will see more and more agenda, because it's coming from the people. People are pushing to have this, because we're learning from the rest of the world, especially Europe. I spent quite a lot of time in Germany as well. My husband is European. So I would say US can do a better job on the climate, on the sustainability, and pushing corporates to have more awareness and just, I think, stricter regulations on what impact means for them. And I think talking about going back to my topics, in the US specifically, the most important topics, if you don't have impact in your agenda, access to capital, employee engagement, like retention people, like literally inspiring people to work for your companies will be really hard for you. Then I would say it's a competitive advantage because more and more companies are just trying to attract customers, retaining top talent, and access to capital, as I said. It's all will be connected to impact. It's the same connected to long-term viability. Like, is your company going to survive if there's like not just climate change, but other changes? Let's say how you access, let's say we had an interesting case about rare minerals and where they're coming from to support the chips, which are supporting AI, machine learning, and supporting startups. So it's all going back to the very basics, to the minerals, to how we start a supply chain for our actual products, right? Then another one, as I said, reputation and brand value, regulatory pressure. I think in US, we see more and more governments, like state by state and federal, are pushing to have more on agenda. Even some professors in Stanford who were teaching us in July, I was reaching out to one of the professors to just meet for coffee. And he was like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm in sabbatical. White House just hired me to write AI policy. So this is happening as we speak. And this is connected to environmental agenda as well, like how much AI and the computational power we need is going to affect the environment. So, and the biggest one, yes, it's social and environment awareness. Coming from investors, from customers, from government, just regular people, they will be putting it on agenda stronger and stronger. So it's not sustainable for you to start a business that doesn't account for that.
Thanks. And Mario, I'm quite curious from Latin America perspective, how does the world look there?
Yeah, I would say Latin America lags behind Europe in terms of impact, maybe parts of the US as well. What I'm seeing more and more is that the constituents who are leading here are the entrepreneurs and the consumers, and then on the investor side, that's an emerging, is growing rapidly, but still from at a very kind of premature stage. And then governments, regulators are not doing much, unfortunately. But the thing is, yeah, it's good to see that more and more entrepreneurs are recognizing the potential that Latin America can have to provide some of these solutions to the rest of the world, as well as kind of to internal domestic markets, especially on the environmental side. Latin America has a huge endowment of natural resources, and how those are mined or treated, for example, can have a significant impact in kind of global emissions. And a place people may not realize, for example, countries like Chile or Brazil, over 85% of their electricity matrix come already from renewable sources. And so for any company that is trying to set up, an industrial base and a green industrial base, that those are genuine kind of geographies that can provide immediate sort of like low emissions on the kind of industrial needs. So electricity needs. So yeah, I see a lot going on in terms of climate tech, food tech, agri-tech, which is exciting. But again, early days. And I think that from an investor's perspective, is really fertile ground to go and support these entrepreneurs that are doing really incredible things.
Cool. That's actually quite, yeah. Would be interesting to see how it will develop. And maybe Elena from the European side and all other markets that you're covering with your startup.
In terms of investments, investors are mainly European, and this is definitely what Valerie has mentioned, and also Mario. Europe is ahead. So there's regulation, and I can talk only or mostly about climate-related, environment-related things. So regulators are very strict, and it's getting stricter and stricter. And for now, it's more for larger companies and larger capitals. but medium-sized also know it will come to them. So they try to accommodate now on their terms to have a little bit more time to be prepared when it comes. It's a pressure of capital, the availability of the capital for those who care about impact, about environment. It's higher, it's cheaper, it's easier. It's both banks and investors. And of course, it's customers at all levels which demand this. And I absolutely can testify to what Valerie mentioned. It's much easier to secure and cheaper to secure talent when you are doing an impact startup. And all startups know how hard it is to hire a top talent. But if you are an impact startup, it will be a little bit easier, I would say, as one of our candidates once said, I want to be proud telling my daughter what I do.
Yeah, I think that's very important feeling to have. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe last remark, if I may, this is a feeling of kind of caring about the impact you as a business make is becoming mainstream. And it's like computers all of a sudden became mainstream in mid-80s when there were PCs. So now it's kind of becoming mainstream, at least for larger companies, to care about ESG and things like that, like calculate their footprints and care about net zero strategies and things. But it's coming to medium-sized businesses, and it's also coming to smaller businesses as well.
Yeah, I think without impact, nothing will work anymore. But also then the last question from for this part, I will ask, I see it in a lot of comments and Q&A, and I will start with Alexander to answer that. But the question is, let's say if a startup is very impact focused and they have impact metric, they already know how to measure impact, but they cannot raise money only for that impact metrics, but the financial part is not strong enough yet. What a startup can do to still raise money without a strong financial side?
You're still going to prove that your solution works for someone or for some segment, cohort, early adopters, like whatever you can demonstrate to convince investors in the audience that your solution is better than the existing ones. This is the only way, probably. Yeah, you're gonna prove it to yourself and to investors, to employees. Your employees are not like stupid, right? They want to see the results of their work. They want to see somebody actually uses the product. That's and as I texted in the chat, you still have some. Okay, the metrics might be non-financial, but there are still some numbers like users retention. Say our product like retain users better, and they achieve their results there, be it like business results or like personal goals or health goals in our case. That's the only way.
Thanks. And anyone else would like to add here?
I wanted to give an advice as well, because that's as a person coming from academia these days, there's quite a lot of grants coming in specific scientific areas. If you can tie your research to a particular government grant, right? So there are like institutes of developments. They are like, I wouldn't say non-profit, but I would say more academia and government organization that want to support impact. And in many cases, it's just all it takes to do a research. Which organization got a big fundings, right? They will be allocating those grants. They'll be allocating this money. And what is also government specific for me, living in Belarus, France, China, Australia, and US, every country is trying to attract tech talent. They try to like bring more impact-driven startups to their companies. Just try to reach into literally like those government programs. For example, Japan, they're also struggling with immigration. They want to get more like fresh blood coming in. I know that Kyoto was building a lot of co-working spaces, and they will give you 200,000, just spend them. It's no strings attached. They really just want people to come and start to work from there. Get your team there, get 200,000 from Japanese government, enjoy the beautiful scenery of Kyoto, and jumpstart your startup. Like there's so many creative ways. I think as a founder, And I'm the person, I'm also a hustler. You need to be hustling, being smart, have a grit and perseverance. That's how you start. And the numbers will follow. Just don't give up. There's so much more you can show to the investors, and find creative ways to get fundings.
And another source of funding, and also another source of expertise, is getting into an accelerator which can make you investable.
Yep.
So if you have a good idea, if you don't have competences inside, just find an accelerator like this, find expertise which you need. You are no NGO, you won't be able to sustain. So it's a must.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to add maybe slightly kind of from a different perspective. I think that, you know, we all love businesses that are trying to generate positive impact, but we mustn't forget that ultimately it's about the compounding of value for these financial investors that are impact focused, but they also want to get, you know, see that there is a compounding and of both the impact and the value, and those two, as we said earlier, they're inseparable. I would say that, you know, in my experience, I've seen a lot of very inspirational founders that have great ideas about the impact that they want to create. They may have had a pilot or some, you know, early viable product with a cohort of customers that love it and so on. But if those founders cannot demonstrate that they understand how a business creates long-lasting value, if they don't understand, you know, they don't have the right mental models about what how a company, a business can create a moat around their competitive advantage, and which allows them to continue to create value over time, it's very difficult for an investor to get conviction that that's ever going to get from a great idea and great sort of product orientation and maybe purpose to something that can really compound both the impact and the value. So I would really advise people to kind of park a little bit the impact side and the purpose and all the great stuff that they're doing, and get acquainted and understand and build these mental models around what creates a moat in a business, and then be very explicit and intentional about what kind of moat do you think that your business in particular can create. Are you trying to create a network effect business? Are you trying to create, you know, efficient scale? Are you trying to create, et cetera, some intangible assets that are going to be unique to you? And that's, I found, like the founders that can come to the table and sit in front of an investor with all the great ideas about the impact they're trying to create, show the product, the traction, but at the same time be able to speak in those terms about what will make their business sustain and compound value over the long term. Those are I think the founders that can really, even from an early stage perspective, convince these investors that, all right, that's a founder I want to back, because they're having their heads in both camps, not just one. There's so many great ideas that end up in just a great idea, unfortunately. I think it's important to keep an eye on what makes for a good company in the long term.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for the input. Just also saying that we at Ultra VC also run an impact-driven accelerator, so you can also apply to our program. And we close the applications in a few days. But we would like to go to the final element of the program, where actually we go into the breakout rooms. So there will be 4 rooms. Each room is assigned to one of the panelists. We will have 7 minutes for each breakout room. So in each breakout room, we'll discuss one of the questions you can see on the screen. So it's what should be in the checklist for founders to be considered impact-driven for investors. So it will be led by Alexander. Then who should be driving the impact-driven focus of a company, investors or founders? And it will be led by Mario. How can a company define impact metrics and how it can be tracked for fundraising purposes and way beyond for like real impact? So it will be led by Lena. And can a company afford being purely revenue-driven and not impact-driven these days? I think this question was already discussed also by Valerie, but that will be
we can do a Q&A session.
Yeah, it will be another breakout room. So all of you will be randomly assigned to 4 rooms, or to one of the 4 rooms. and the moderators will will kick off the discussion. And I will see everyone in 7 minutes. But welcome back, everyone. We had some chat while everyone was in the breakout room. We had some conversations, people in the chat. It was nice. But what we will do now for the rest 5 minutes, I would really like to hear from all of you how the discussion went and what were some insights or anything that you would like to share with everyone, that everyone else who were not a part of your discussion can learn from that as well. We will ask with, or we'll start with Alexander.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, we discussed the kind of the checklist and the key kind of characteristics that investors seek in the how to define kind of the impact-led startup. And we discussed that first and foremost is the clear mission and vision, because obviously you pitch this every day probably as a founder, and you pitch the investment opportunity, but also there is a mission around or aligned with the opportunity. And then of course you have to have some system of measurement and reporting, otherwise it's just it's a gimmick. So you don't create an impact if you don't measure it, right? Because you can change something you don't measure. And the third one, we discussed that ideally there should be a business model alignment. So the business model should be like intrinsically designed to support this impact. And as an example, we can say we develop an app and we want to create this and that, but the business model of the app is advertising. That's how we make money. And kind of automatically this means that we intrinsically push towards selling more ads, catching more and more kind of eyeballs, making the sessions longer and to show in more like banners or videos, etc. And kind of this creates some misalignment with the, say, if we want to make people, I don't know, exercise more, but the way we make money, we kind of sell ads.
Yeah, cool, interesting, thank you. And Mario, let's continue with you.
Yeah, our question wasn't very controversial. Who should be driving the impact-driven focus of a company, investors or founders? We very quickly agree that it should be founders that are the holders of the culture and the values of the company, and they are the first to instill that purpose. So then we kind of it led to very interesting discussion about I was just learning about some of the experiences of some of the founders that were part of that room. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough time to hear from all of them, but yeah, I would say it was a very unanimous answer to the question.
But actually, maybe I'll follow up that on that question is like, what if an investor is driving a focus and the founder doesn't? Like when already the investment was made, and then investors want to have more or either impact focus or, for example, even more revenue focus or like whatever financial focus. Like, maybe it's like another discussion for 5 minutes, but maybe for another time. But it's more like it's like what can startups do if an investor is pushing for something? But I guess from what I hear.
I think for a company to have, a company could have an impact-driven focus or not, right? And for it to have a true impact-driven focus, there needs to be a genuine, intent by the founder, or the founders, to try to pursue that impact, right? That may not exist, and they may, fool investors that they're pursuing some impact-driven purpose while not really doing it, and then that would just be a failure of the investor not to kind of have assessed that investment correctly. I think to the extent that a business has a true impact-driven focus, that has to be driven by the founder. Investors are not driving the business; they're not managing the business. You can always sort of support the founder in their mission, but and try to give them as many tools as you can. But the driving force has to be from within, and it needs to be genuine, I think.
Yeah, I fully agree. Thank you. And then we will run a few minutes late, but we'll still finish. I'm really curious to hear about the rest of the discussions. And Lena, I'll start with you.
Yeah, it was actually not enough time. I wanted to hear from people what they do, because you cannot generalistically discuss how a company defines impact metrics, because true, as Alexander mentioned, the first thing you need to do is to clearly define your mission and goals. And then you will be able to identify key stakeholders, choose relevant indicators, prioritize your metrics, and do things like that. And thanks to Sergey and our group for asking the question, for somehow driving me into these thoughts. And as for metrics, it's clearly simple. You just set this baselines and collect data and monitor and evaluate. But everything starts with the goals and the mission. Mm-hmm. I would love to know more about what you guys do. So if you feel like continuing the discussion, please find me on LinkedIn and just feel free to ping and to send me questions, and I will try to brainstorm with you.
Thank you. And thank you for the support. I see in the chat that people also started to share LinkedIn. So yeah, if you all who are watching would like to get connected, please share LinkedIn, connect with each other, so you can keep discussing everything about the impact investment or just building an impact startup. But Valerie, from your discussion around, yeah, can you survive?
I think my topic. Yeah, my topic was already addressed, so I actually changed it a little bit to make it more valuable for people. And I actually shared more about trends that are emerging in impact investing in the startup scenes, because it's really important, especially for early founders, to think about that. It's not just environmental climate focus, but regulations, like collecting the data to actually create reportings and measuring impact, right? We talked about that. Talking about circular economy, recycling, upcycling, everything sustainable, from the minerals that you're going to be sourcing, let's say your hardware startups, to all the way to how you write code these days. Because I see that a lot of AI and craziness about generative AI, it's actually not super sustainable for energy consumption. So you have to think how you're addressing that, like even the way how you write the code, so it will take less energy. So I hope it was valuable for my cohort. We had a few questions. I wish we had more time. Yeah, it's always like, oh, you're almost just starting, and then it's. So I think it's great to connect.
Can you say a few words on the trends? I'm quite curious.
So I think the biggest trend that I see here outside of environmental climate focus, of course, it's we have a lot about social inclusion and equity, meaning like companies really have a quota. So you have to have minimum 40% women on the board, for example. Different race, different background, different age. So you really have to, it's a regulation. So in California, you break the law if you don't bring women into, let's say, the board of the company. So I think healthcare and biotechnology, it's in general how COVID changed our work. So there's more investments, a lot actually investments happening in those areas. Circular economy, as I said, everything about recycling, upcycling, sustainable economies, it will be getting even bigger. Measuring impacts and reporting, so collecting the data to show like what are you actually doing towards those goals. What else? Yeah, diversity in investment teams, as I said. Cross-sector collaboration, maybe it's a good point. Just creating partnerships, right? Whatever you're building, let's say you're building an education startup, so we're investing in education, so it's an easy example. Think about universities, think about schools, like who you can partner with to drive your mission forward. So that's like collaborating closer. That's kind of a trend as well. And I think in general, just tech for good. We have big technology leaders. Like one of the interesting projects that it's came to light right now, like Zuckerberg, all the big guys, they bought for 10 years, they're buying a piece of land between San Francisco and Sacramento, and they want to build a new city because they believe that American cities are not great and they want to fix it. So it's a huge effort, a huge product to use tech for good. In this case, providing affordable housing and really safe cities to work and to live in. So it's a big trend, using it for goodness.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I think with that note, we are almost ready to close this meetup, but I still would like to ask one last question. If there is anything from the panelists that you would like to still share, maybe give a piece of advice or anything that comes to your mind to share with mostly the startups who are still in the audience. Yeah, and then with that note, we will close down. But let's start with Mara. If there's any piece of advice you still would like to share.
Yeah, just kind of try to kind of contribute from my position as a portfolio manager of bigger companies and at Genesis, and then kind of as an angel investor as well. But I think again, kind of reinforcing the point that everyone here, I think we're connected to solving some of the biggest issues that the world faces. But ultimately, each of these endeavors, each startup, every idea needs to be seen also from the lens of creating a sustainable long-term business. And that is not very different from a company that doesn't look to generate any positive impact. And all those frameworks are very useful. You need to be able to scale a business and create those moats, irrespective of whether or not you're doing good. And I think that one thing that I'm getting more and more excited about is that I think that companies that are addressing these important issues stand in a good position to try to, to stand a chance to build those moats, because they're going to have the preference from consumers and they're going to have less headwinds from regulators and so on. But that's not sufficient. You still need to be able to build a business that is, that is strong and can protect those moats that hopefully you can create. So yeah, be driven by the impact, but at the same time, like, be very grounded and understand what the logics behind actually creating long-lasting businesses are. I don't think those have changed significantly.
Yeah, fully agree. Thank you. Thanks. Lena.
I would say find your people, those who understand and share your vision. And it's both teams, investors, or professional communities. The journey of an impact startup won't be easy, so find your allies. And I do respect what Mario just said, because I personally truly believe that money should not be disregarded. We are not NGOs. We wouldn't be in business otherwise. But I truly believe that we need to be thinking about a sustainable world in a larger aspect, in combination of economies, social strategies, money, and things like that. And we need to think that there are real things and there are invented things. The real things are the planet, the nature, and the people. Everything else can be reinvented. Everything else we invented to make life better. So be inventive and reinvent what should be reinvented.
Oh, that's very inspiring. Thanks. Alexander. I think you're muted if you're...
So I was thinking. Just entrepreneurs are often dreamers, and their dreams are bold, and they are still useless if they are not doers at the same time. So I think impact entrepreneurs are the ones who have one of the most ambitious dreams. So good luck in finding this balance between like a dreamer and doer in yourself, because you need both sides of of that.
Well, as also then I mentioned, surround yourself is like people who can complement that. Yeah. So, thank you. And Valerie, last but not least.
I will add to everybody's point in some way that people are the most important, and I will give perspective of a VC, right, of investor. Be smart, like find the right partner, because these days, yes, there's plenty of money, and even though the year is harder to fundraise, but still, if you go to the biggest names, for example, yes, they will give you PR or something, but they will not roll up their sleeves and work for you, for example. If you get somebody a little bit smaller or somebody who's more agile, they will work harder to help you to succeed, especially if you align on the values. And I think for impact, it's just critical. So finding your people from the very beginning who will support you financially, who will help you to drive those communities, exactly what Lena said. I 100% agree with that. Surround yourself with people you trust and respect. And for me, that's the key for success.
Great. And on that note, thank you very much for being here and sharing your experience and thoughts with us. Thank you for everyone who joined, participated, especially thank you for those who joined the breakout rooms and was participating there. I completely agree personally also that to surround yourself with the best possible people is, or like not the best, but like people who believe in you or who can support you in achieving your dream is the key. So please keep doing that, and please come to us, to any of us, and we will help you with that. So thanks again, and see you at the next meetup we will have.
Thank you, Daria, and thank you, everybody.